Hi, I'm Joe Navarro, and welcome to People Watching. Today, I'm going to be talking about people who are highly manipulative. These are individuals who work hard at manipulating others, enjoy manipulating others, and take great pride in manipulating others. Now, you often read about these individuals or you see TV specials about them, and they're quite interesting and quite amazing at some of the things they can get away with. One individual was able to manipulate a family into believing that he was actually one of their children. The other one was able to manipulate young people to be on the run them for a period in excess of 9 or 10 years. And you say, how do they get away with that? And to answer that question, the answer begins with you have to realize that there are people out there that are highly manipulative. That's the first thing you have to realize is that they're out there and that they will take advantage of you and advantage of opportunities and advantage of people you love and care for. In my experience, and I wrote about them in my book, Dangerous Personality, people that are highly manipulative have a well-defined hidden agenda. Now, you may not know what that agenda is, but they do. It is well-defined. They purpose their life to achieve something, whether it's to gain money or to have control over people or property or things, to get a job. Whatever that is, you may not know what that agenda is because they try to keep it hidden, but they always have an agenda. These are not people that are fickle. These are not people that very, very much in their pursuits. They identify what they want and then they do everything they can to achieve that by manipulation. Their actions, their words, their deeds are always to benefit them. Now, at first, you may not recognize that. It may not look that way, but in fact, it always benefits them in some way. Whether it's getting to know someone so that they have access to them, so that they can be photographed with somebody famous, or they join a church so that they have access to people of higher status where normally they wouldn't do that. I have known individuals who are just magnificent in their ability to take advantage of things that you and I would never think about. But for them, they can turn those things into something that they can manipulate, such as getting an introduction or getting an invite. They're self-obsessed. They only care about themselves. They don't care about you, certainly. They don't care about society. They don't care about rules. They only care about themselves. They know what their agenda is and they follow a line of behaviors that will get them closer to that. It may take a few hours, a few weeks, a few years, but that is all they think about. And what's interesting about them, and I've interviewed several of them over the years, is that they enjoy the game of manipulating others. They take delight in pulling one over others, in getting you to do foolish things, do things that you would never think you would do under normal circumstances. They really enjoy that. In my book, Dangerous Personalities, I talk about narcissistic glee. And it's the fact that these individuals, who most likely are highly narcissistic, are very gleeful in the way that they can pull the strings and manipulate other people. When they're incarcerated, the storytelling that they share with other people about how easily they manipulated others is something to behold. So just be aware that for them, it's a game. It's an enjoyable game. It's not difficult. For you and me, it's probably hard work trying to keep track of this lie and that lie. For them, it's recreational. For the manipulative personality, relationships are useful. Now, it's useful for all of us to have relationships because we may need somebody's help at some point. It's always good to have somebody to talk to and share ideas with. But for them, it's a utility. Relationships are a utility. They are there for a purpose. One day they turn on the switch, and at that point, everything is fine. But the next day, they can turn that switch off with a coldness, what I often refer to as reptilian indifference. They may be a wonderful friend or a lover 1 minute, and then the next day you realize that they've taken your money, taken things from you, and you were just for utilitarian purposes. That is part of being a manipulator. And you have to realize that there are people in this world that are like this, and that if you reach out to them, you're crying, you're pleading, you're pouring your heart out is not going to change anything. They are manipulators, and they're cold. They lack a conscience, to put it in the terms that Robert Hare would use. As you know, he wrote the book on psychopaths without conscience. They always enjoy having an advantage. And sometimes the advantage can be one of money, or even a psychological advantage, or an information advantage over other people. Those little advantages, that little morsel of information, that little morsel of access, those little things that gives them a small advantage over others, they not only enjoy having that, but they will purpose that. They will use that against you and against others. These are individuals that, and I'm always impressed at how easy they lie, how calm they are, how even when they're surrounded by police officers, they just can talk their way through anything. I had one once where we were actually showing him a photographic evidence of himself. And he had the audacity to say, well, that's not me. Well, yeah, it was him. They just find it very easy to lie and to maneuver and to make everybody else doubt themselves. That is one of the traits of the manipulative individual. And they are incredibly fast at identifying the weaknesses that we all have. We all have exploitable weaknesses. Now, your exploitable weakness may be that you're too kind. Somebody else's exploitable weakness is that they're too helpful. They will identify your weaknesses very quickly and then target them. Now, if your weakness is that you love going to tennis matches, and you are a fanatic when it comes to a sport or whatever, they will use that to prey on you. And so they use information, they use behaviors, they can identify the things that they can exploit very quickly, and they immediately put it to use. And as I said, they can make you question yourself. It's like, is this real? Is this even happening to me? Am I being taken advantage of? I can't believe I gave him my telephone number, and I even gave him a deposit slip, or any number of things. They will make you question yourself because of how manipulative they are. But always keep in mind, they're only concerned with their own needs. They will ignore your needs to the point where they have placed people in danger by driving fast, by not stopping at a pharmacy to pick up medicines, by any number of things, because they could care less about your needs. The only thing they care about is their needs. And the manipulative person will talk their way out of that and say, you know what, you don't need your medications right now. We'll get them, further up, or the needs of your children. And that is really dangerous. These individuals will not take responsibility for the harm they cause, for putting you or exposing you to danger, for money that you lose. They are without a conscience. All they think about is themselves. And this lack of responsibility, taking responsibility and owning up to the things that they've done wrong, is something that they have done for a very, very long time. And they can be very petty. They will object to you calling them out on things that you notice, and they just go on the attack because they know that by bracing you psychologically against the wall, being petty, calling out your exploitable weaknesses, they can then be in a superior position. They can be very passive aggressive in that they can point out some of your disabilities, some of the areas that you're weak in, and so forth. From a passive aggressive standpoint, they could say something like, well, if your IQ were a little higher like mine, you wouldn't be in this situation. Very passive aggressive. They will use information to put you down. They will use things that you've revealed to them about your family or your past in an aggressive way to put you in your place. They are always elevating themselves and always putting others down. Now, let's be frank. Some of them can be very charming, and they can be very interesting. And I've talked to them, and yes, they truly are charming, but that charm only lasts for a very specific period of time, because in the end, they're only concerned with themselves. They don't care about you. And so all that charm disappears, and then they become burdensome. So highly charming individuals always tell you there's a clock that goes with that, and it's counting down. It's not going to increase over time. They are truly expert liars. And I mean, they are so facile in their ability to lie, to make up things. You confront them with something and they come up with an answer that is plausible. So just because they say it and say it quickly doesn't mean that it's true. Obviously, we always want to verify what anybody says. They can get really moody sometimes when circumstances aren't going their way, because they can't express themselves, because they can't be truthful, because they can't be transparent. Then they withdraw, they become moody. And then what usually happens, especially in interpersonal relationships, it compels you to say, oh, what's wrong? How can I help? And so forth. And so they can even use this moodiness as a controlling mechanism, as a means of manipulating. Be aware that they can be very sarcastic as they put you down, and they use that to elevate themselves. And they're always looking for the weak. They target the weak, the elderly. People press for time, people press for money, people who are in dire need. They have the ability to assess for the weak, and they target them. So the elderly, the very young, the naive, maybe people that are on the autism spectrum, they will actually target those individuals because they know that this or that person may have weaker skills at reading body language, and so they intentionally target them. So just be aware of that. They can be very controlling. They begin to control everything: your access to others, the phone, information, time away from them, any number of things. They will try to control what you read, who you listen to, what advice you get, even who you access on the internet. So anybody that tries to control any of these things, including your time is a very specialized thing that these individuals will try to control. Just be aware they're manipulating you. If you control time, as I often say, you control. And manipulators control time as well as information. Obviously, they can be very judgmental, and they do it in such a way that they always put you down. They always try to keep you from rising up, because by causing you to question yourself, by causing you to wonder if you're wrong, they can then further manipulate you. And of course, any attempt on their part to isolate you from family, friends, loved ones, even your pets, is highly manipulative. They can be very beguiling, very beguiling. I mean, all of a sudden you find yourself in these situations and you say, how did I get here? Well, if you have to wonder about how you got here in a relationship or with someone, there's something definitely wrong. And most likely it's because of a highly manipulative individual. Be aware that they'll put you into a time crunch where you have to make a decision quickly. You only have X amount of time. It has to be done now, and there's no getting around it. And so that time crunch, anytime that it's used, is almost always highly manipulative. I've had pitch offers where somebody comes in and he said, well, you have to make this decision. You know, they come to you today and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they say, well, you know, to get in on this, you got to do it by 5 p.m. And I said, bye-bye. I don't need this. Anybody that puts you into a time crunch is being highly manipulative. The other thing they'll try to do is they'll create external fears. Manipulative people will create fears that probably do not exist, or if they exist, they're statistically insignificant. But they'll use that to control you, to control your behavior, to control who you see, who you talk to. They may keep you from going out of the house by using these external fears. They could even say, hey, you know, they're listening on your phone, so don't use your mobile phone because the government is listening in. Nonsense like that is used to control. Very manipulative. Manipulative people covet what other people have. They're lacking. And so they covet what you have, what other people have. They may covet the ability to have control over your life. So they have godlike powers. And those things cannot be dismissed. So listen always to what people say, what they prioritize, what they covet. Often will give you some insight into whether or not they're highly manipulative. Manipulative people are a specialized kind. I talk about them in dangerous personalities. They can be very subtle, but they can also be very dangerous. So I hope you are forewarned. And if you enjoy this, please subscribe, please share it with others. And I thank you for taking the time to be with me.